Thank you for joining me today, Kimball. I'm joined by the amazing Kimball Farley here to talk about Hippo and some of his other incredible projects coming up.
Oh man, I'm so excited to be here.
Me too, man. It was so awesome meeting you at the premiere. That was so much fun. Braindead Studios, by the way, is super cool.
Really cool, like amazing theater. And I was like not expecting it to be so packed like that. Like that was like, and I think it was just like the best home for it where we've had other like fun screenings, but like that was like it was sold out and then everyone was like laughing, I feel like at all the right moments and they just really got it. It just was so much fun. I think that's like my favorite Hippo experience ever. It was
It's
so
so
much fun.
It was, and everyone was so friendly there. Like, it got to meet you and some of the other cast members and stuff. And Eric came up to me afterwards. I actually like said hi to him, and he was like smoking and standing next to me, and he was like the nicest person ever.
I'm like, he's amazing. He's so charismatic. Like
He really is.
he's just awesome. Me and my girlfriend, we saw him like a few weeks beforehand, and we because he's having like a bit of a resurgence on TikTok where he's like all these fan cams are coming out of him in like the 70s and 80s, and he like looks all hot. He looks hot all the time, but he like looks so hot, and we were showing him his fan cams, and like he I got a video of it. I'll have to send it to you later, but I got a video of his like reaction like watching him, and he's like wow, like it's just he's just so awesome.
You have to send me that. And I did want to start off asking because I know that you guys are doing a re-release for this film.
Yeah,
So where can people find it? How long is it in theaters again for?
totally. Yeah, so it's coming back with Alamo Drafthouse at the end of the month, and they just added some more screenings because a number of them are selling out actually. But so January 30th, it's coming to well, basically January 24th now it's doing LA Alamo Drafthouse and New York Alamo Drafthouse. They added those, and then it's doing the 29th in New York and LA at Alamo Drafthouse, and then it's doing the 30th in Denver, Chicago, San Francisco, and Austin. And then they're
Awesome.
working on adding more. And then after that, I'm trying to find the exact theaters, but I do know that we are coming to Arizona actually
Oh, hell
ar-
yeah.
around February 24th.
Perfect. I will let everybody I know to go see that when they're out here.
That like let me, like I'm like, what is the exact date? Oh, here it is. Hippo in Phoenix. 24th. I don't know the theater actually, but
It's fine.
but
I'll find
24th.
it.
But yeah, we'll find it. But and then it's doing more, but yeah, out on Blu-ray now as well. But the idea is I think sometime after like March or so, it should find a home somewhere where then people can view it like digitally as well. But yeah,
That's awesome.
doing the theatrical run right now, and so would love to have everyone and anyone out there.
Definitely. And I'll make sure to like publish the dates on my like socials and stuff so people know like when and where to find it because I need more people to see this. Like it honestly was one of my favorite films of last year. Like it took me by some like such a surprise and I was laughing my ass off.
Dude, thank you so much. I'm so glad you connected with it. It is wild. I think um that's the hope also is like I like of course like I want people to see the trailer as well, but I feel like people who don't even see the trailer like if you don't watch the trailer and you just go in, I feel like you're in for a wild hopefully pretty original time.
100%. I had no idea. Like I just heard it was a crazy film. Francis was like, you should just come. And I was like, why not? I'm in town. And I know Chuck, your movie guy, he was telling me he was like, yeah,
Yeah,
you need to see this and
he's the
loved
best.
it.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's yeah, I love both of them. Yeah, Chuck's review, like I saved it on my phone. He was like but yeah, they're the best. But I'm so glad you loved it. It's yeah, it's definitely wild. Our next one is similar vibes, but but even further, I think.
Yeah, talk a little bit about your next project, and then we'll get into the hippo stuff because I got a lot of
Yeah, yeah.
questions.
Totally, totally. So the next one, hence the hair and the eyebrows,
It's a good look.
it's a good look. It is called Godhead, and it's we're filming it right now in Charleston, and it's like a Southern Gothic, weird horror comedy. It's also in black and white, and it's a pair of twins kind of approach a priest, a little neighborhood priest, and force him to embark on a mission that yeah, gets very I need to think of the elevator pitch for this one, but it gets very insane. And it should be a wild time. Hopefully that one's out. Like, I'm always optimistic, but like maybe that one will be already viewable at festivals like either late this year or like early next year. But
That's so
should be
awesome.
soon. But
It sounds great.
thank you.
What do you like shooting in the black and white? Like did you help write this script as well too or
I did, yeah, not as so Hippo, I was like very, very hands-on where like me and Mark were like really tossing it back and forth and like laughing, writing all these jokes and everything. And then this one we started writing this one about like 2.5 years ago or so. And but it's really taken shape over time. But like this one was more of like we talked about the ideas of it and then like Mark kind of took it and like played around with it, and then like he'd bring it back to me, and I'd be like, "Oh, what if this or that?" And so, but it was very collaborative still, and so I did help with that process. But we really love black and white. Eventually, we will make a film in color. We have plans for that as well. Um, but there's something about black and white for some of these, especially, and I'm a sucker for black and white. Like I love like a lot of my favorite movies are from like the 40s and 50s,
Mhm.
and so I just think it's such a beautiful way to photograph a movie where it's like, and this is going to sound pretentious, but like Orson Welles has a quote where he says something like, black and white is an actor's best friend because you're not looking at like the production design. Not that there's anything wrong with looking at the
Mhm.
production design, but like you're not paying attention to all this stuff behind the actor. It's like forcing you to like just look at the performance really.
That's cool.
And so that's, we like that a lot. And there's just something about it. We're doing some infrared on this one as well, where
Oh,
kind of
cool.
like some Dune 2 vibes.
Mhm.
Um, but uh, but yeah, so it's we just get a real kick out of it ultimately. But but yeah, we do have plans for a film in color as well.
That's awesome. Honestly, black and white, I'm glad it's making like a resurgence because I
Yeah.
think it really like enhances movies. Like I saw Godzilla minus one in color and then they did the like minus color and
Whoa.
it completely changes the way the film feels and looks, obviously. But it like
Yeah.
it's more of a horror movie than like kind of like a sad like drama. Like it's just completely different.
Totally, yeah. Like or even like similarly when like George Miller did like the Chrome Mad
Oh
Max.
yeah.
It's like it really changes how you view a movie. And even like Bong Joon-ho, I haven't seen it, but he did Parasite in black and white. Like he did like
Oh
a
yeah.
re-release of that in black and white. And it's interesting because yeah, like I think also black and white where it helps like in Hippo's case, for instance, is I think if Hippo was in color, it well, one, we shot it for black and white, so I don't know how it would look in color, where like it might look too jumbled and there'd be like
Hmm.
colors that might not mix, whereas they mix better in black and white. But like but what else helps is because it's so funny yet uncomfortable, I think it adds to the uncomfortability because you're like unsure if you should laugh or not because it's like it's almost framed like a drama. So you're like, okay, but they're saying really insane things. So like I don't know if I should be laughing at this. And whereas in color, I think it'd be like, okay, like it's safe for me to laugh at this. Um, and like there was one one distribution company that like wanted to have it when we were like first screening it, and they wanted it to change to color and like
Mm-mm.
position it as like a sex comedy, which is fine. They had different views
Yeah.
for it, but like we just didn't want to go down that path. But and I think if we went down a path like that, it just would have. I think the jokes just wouldn't have hit as hard because you're you're just not expecting them, and so like it catches you off guard when it's in black and white. And
It
so I think with Godhead, this one we're filming now, we're hoping for like a similar reaction, but like we're taking it even further, but which is saying something.
It definitely, I like that, like what you were saying, like, the comedy might not land as well in color. And I definitely think it does better in black and white because it's like, it feels in a way kind of like more real. Like, it kind of feels like it's like a homemade movie, like that this kid actually believes and stuff, which is
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it makes it way more hysterical that you're like, this is actually ridiculous that he thinks this.
Yeah, it feels so real. Like it feels like you're almost watching like a documentary of this
Hmm.
family. You're like this kid needs to go to a mental hospital ASAP. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, like in color, it would be like, oh, this is like a comedy. Like,
Hmm.
and then but then when he's saying all these insane things and he's becoming so dangerous, you would be like, ah, he's fine. It's Hippo. Like you might be treating it like you are his like his mom, who means so well, but she's a little bit too loving towards him, and she gives him a crossbow when he wants one. But
which is amazing.
which is amazing. But no, yeah. So hopefully the black and white this next one I'll have to send you some secret behind the scenes at some point because it'll look wild.
Please do. So, how did you and Mark come up with the idea for Hippo? Because, like you said, it's one of a kind, honestly.
Thank you. Well, so we basically so it's interesting. So we wrote a few films first. Before that, we wrote this film about a cult that we're still trying to get off the ground. It's just like a bigger budget. And we wrote like a few like religious horror films because we're just very drawn to like religion, and they all were too expensive. And so it was like July 2021, and Mark was like, okay, what can we like write that we can film just like at my grandma's house in Pennsylvania because like the location's there, and she has this weird house that's like from the 80s, and it has like a real Cold War era bomb shelter, and she has a ton of like Jesus like stuff around her house. Like she's very Catholic, and so we thought of Hippo. We just were drawn to this like coming of age story, and what really helped was we were kind of like looking into old like classic texts like Shakespeare or like Greek tragedies, and we were like, what can we like? What are we drawn to in these that we can like take and twist and
Hmm.
make like darker and make them art? And so we found this Greek tragedy that I don't think I knew of at the time. Maybe I'd barely heard of it, but it called Hippolytus, basically Hippo, but with Lytus at the end. And it was a very similar character. We really drew heavily from it, where it's this character that was like he really kind of like hated everyone, was cold towards everyone, but he was like drawn to hunting and war and like
Hmm.
chaos. And so we were like, what if you took that and you put that in 1990s America, and it's a kid that like instead like maybe he loves war, but he's not actually in war. Maybe he loves
Hmm.
video games about war, and maybe he loves like. And so let's make a 1990s like version of it where like the internet is slowly becoming a thing, and he loves these video games, and what would that look like? And what if instead, yeah, like he had like a stepsister from Hungary, and he had like all these pieces came together, and then from there it was just like really easy to write it, and yeah, I think that's really just where it came from ultimately.
That's cool.
But yeah, and then we added narration, and once we added the narration, it was helpful as well because you're kind of getting an inner look at the characters who are so cold and sociopathic, who otherwise if you didn't have that narration you might not know
Hmm.
what's going on inside their heads. And so but it was really fun, and then it became just like an easy writing process where we wrote the film, I want to say in like a month or two, and then we were already filming it in like October or November 2021.
That's
Um,
crazy.
but and then we shot it in 16 days. But wild stuff.
Yeah, I remember you said you saw it in 16 days, which is insane. But you kind of brought up the point where, like earlier and kind of just now, but the movie, like, it toes the line very well of like, not going too far offensive, but like keeping it just right where it's just absolutely hysterical and like so how do you toe that line? Like how do you when you're writing it, like how do you know if this is too much or this is like not enough that you want to push?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's so funny because like when we were writing it, there were moments where I was like, is this too far? I was like without giving too much away, like for instance, the scene with the super soakers.
Hmm.
I was
Oh God.
um like I liked it, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it a lot, but I was also like at the time, like, it's like you almost make like three or four different movies.
Hmm.
And it's like in when you're making one movie, like you make the movie you make with the script, like that's just in your head, then the movie on set, and then the movie in the editing room. And so it's like you make three different movies. And so at the time, I just was looking at the movie and the script, and I couldn't see all the final pieces coming together and how it might look. I had ideas of it, but in that time, I was like, how is this gonna look? Like, is this gonna be like rated X? Like, is this gonna make me like a rated X actor? And so I was like a little nervous, but ultimately, like we just thought like let's just write what we think is funny and outrageous, and we knew also going in like these characters are all like dark, like sociopathic, like horrible people.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone in the film, other than like Buttercup is the most pure. The mother
Mm-hmm.
is like second most pure. If you have to judge them
Yeah.
according, like Hippo's obviously awful, Darwin's awful. But like um they're all these awful people, and so you're going in knowing, okay, like no one is a good person in here. But like for instance, when we were writing Darwin, it was so fun and easy. And I know that's crazy because he's an awful person, and he's like a pedophile.
Yeah.
But like what was funny about that was like it was almost an exercise for us in the sense of like, we're such big fans of Philip Seymour Hoffman, and who isn't?
Mm-hmm.
He's like the greatest of all time. I love him so much. But for that, it was almost like, okay, like I feel like every movie, and sorry if I'm going on like a tangent
Oh,
here.
no, you're good.
I feel like every movie should always write one part for Philip Seymour Hoffman, where it's like, okay, if like let's if I know Philip is no longer alive, which is horrible, but like theoretically, like every movie would be better if he was in it. And
Yeah,
so for us, we were imagining, okay, if Philip was around, and if he would even say yes to this, let's write a part that we would love for
that's
him to
cool.
play. And so that was like Darwin, and like that kind of just like informed the writing. And so it just ended up being a lot of fun. But it is such a dark script, and it really does like toe that line of like what can one say here. But I think it just was helpful that like everyone also knows like, okay, these people were real. They would all like be in prison and
Yeah.
locked away, and so it's safer to watch them through the silver screen right here, and like watch them from afar this way.
That's
But
awesome. That's honestly perfect. I think the black and white helps that too a little bit, like it helps soften the blow of some of the jokes.
yes, 100%. And I think, yeah, because there are so many outrageous jokes
Hmm.
where you're like that should not be okay to say. But in black and white, you're like there is like a safety net that comes with it, because yeah, if it was in color, it'd almost be like, whoa, what's this like outrageous rated
Yeah.
R comedy? Like it almost would be too much. But in black and white, you're like, it's just a little safer for some reason. Like I think it also reminds people that this is a movie and that these aren't
Yep.
real people. Whereas in color, because obviously we see in color, it's a little bit more real, where you're like, whoa, they're saying some scary, gross things, and they're doing weird things with super soakers and things. And but but yeah, I think the black and white, while it's beautiful, it helps remind you like this is a movie.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite Philip Seymour Hoffman movie now that
Oh
you brought him up?
man. Oh, that's my favorite question I've ever been asked, because I could talk for like at length about all this. I I want to first preface this by saying like I'll go back and like rewatch like all of his old interviews and like reread them, because there's just like safety in him. I really feel like he's the like, as everyone feels this way, he's like the father of acting. And I know he
Hmm.
he wasn't around like when Marlon Brando and all these people were around, but like there's something about him where he's like not like secretive. He's accessible, and I don't know, he's just like a wonderful person, obviously all around. But as an actor, he's just like a true artist, and he like cares. Yet you can tell he's having so much fun with it. And so even on New Year's, me and my girlfriend like we had like the most like adult New Year's recently. We literally just stayed in, watched some Philip Seymour Hoffman interviews, and then the clock struck 12, and then we went outside and looked at a few fireworks, and then we went to bed at like 12:10. And so, but now to answer your question, I oh man, I mean, I love The Master. I love all of his Paul Thomas Anderson
Yeah.
collaboration. The Master, I think, was amazing. I think he deserved an Oscar for that. I also love Christoph Waltz and Django, and I know he won that year.
That was a
But I
great
just
year.
think Philip's amazing, great year. And then I love Magnolia. I love Punch Drunk Love. But then even his like collaborations that aren't with Paul Thomas Anderson, like Capote and
Capote's great.
Mr. Ripley, he's amazing in that. Like Almost Famous, Moneyball. Like I mean, he's like amazing in everything. And even like I remember being a kid, and I think my first introduction to him, because at the time when I was growing up, I wasn't allowed to watch rated R movies. My first introduction to him was Mission Impossible 3 with Tom Cruise.
That was
And
mine too, I think.
and I remember being like, who is this guy? Like I was like horrified of his performance because he's so dark in that. But I was also like, I could not look away.
Yep.
And there was just something about him where I was like, he is so special. And like just like what he's able to do, like, there was just no one like him. And I can like Paul Thomas Anderson has this quote where he was saying, I think it was like when he was watching him in Scent of a Woman or something, he said like the second that he saw him, he was like, I knew that he was for me and I was for him. And like, I feel like he has that effect on everyone
Hmm.
because I would like just as much, obviously, as everyone would love to work with him. I'd love to like act alongside him, or like I would have loved to see his stage performances also because I know he did like True West on Broadway. He did tons of stuff, but
Yep.
like I like scoured the internet looking for any clips of like True West that he did with like John C. Riley. I couldn't find any. I don't know if anyone filmed anything of that,
That would have
but
been
like
cool to see.
it would have been so cool to see. And I know he did like Death of a Salesman with Andrew Garfield, but like that, like he was just like an actor that like knew like he just like knew what he was doing, whether he thought that or not. Like he just like and he also like balanced between stage and film, and he just was so special. And so like honestly, like whenever I'm feeling like lost, it's like weird, but like I'll just Google like Philip Seymour Hoffman interview, and I've read them all and I've watched them all, but like you can just scroll and look at anecdotes and be like, oh, I feel good now because Philip said this, and so it's like in a way he's talking to. I feel like he's just talking to actors everywhere, but like,
That's so
but
cool.
that's just he's like a beacon of light always. But
That's amazing. I love Twister. That was the one that I actually got introduced to him from. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was also a great introduction to him. And I like, he's just so good at like, he's also just so good in like blockbuster movies as well. And
yes.
even Hunger Games. Like I remember when he was like, he's just so good. And everything he does, like he could like act in, I don't know. And he makes everything so artistic just by being in it. Like he takes everything up a notch.
Yeah.
So he's just the best. But yeah, it makes me want to rewatch Mission Impossible 3 now because I haven't seen it in so long. But like that was I don't know if I've seen it since I was like a kid, but I just remember I think I saw like a clip of it on Instagram recently, and I just was like, oh man, like
It's
that's
the
so
perfect time because the new one's coming out this summer. So, the final
I
one.
know I might as well just like watch that and then watch them all.
It's worth it.
And
Honestly, they're all so good.
They are so good. And Tom Cruise is also like underrated. Like he's like obviously in the 90s he was like just killing it. Like Eyes Wide Shut and
Hmm.
Magnolia in the same year. But I'm excited like he's even filming Alejandro Inarritu's next movie right
Hmm.
now, which I think is called Judy or something. And Jesse Plemons is in that.
He's great.
Jesse Plemons is another legend. So I'm like going on like a crazy
No, dude, this is great. I love this. It's nice to just talk to you and like shoot the shit about movies. So,
It is. It really is. But man, in another life, I just would have like a Philip Seymour Hoffman podcast where like I just would just simply talk about him every day, and I would just like it would honestly just be me alone in a room talking in a corner, like facing the wall to myself. But
it's
like,
like this is what I loved about this movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
That's
should just make that podcast, honestly.
I just should. I honestly should. But no, yeah, he's the greatest. But now I got
What
to
a
do
legend.
it.
So,
Yeah,
going back to the movie,
yeah. Sorry.
obviously, no, you're good. Obviously, like, writing characters and things like that, I'm sure you pull a lot of inspiration from so many things, but how do you bridge like the gap of being the writer in this film and also the actor? Like, do you find it's easier having this character written out, or do you still make changes as you're filming?
That's a really good question. So, it's interesting because for me, I don't know that maybe this sounds like selfish. I don't know that like I would ever like for me it really feels like writing is an extension of acting for me,
Hmm.
or at least like the ways I've done it before, like because I haven't like written that many times. It's usually like in collaboration with a filmmaker because I don't know. I'm sure I could down the line, but really I don't know that I would ever write something that I'm not acting in the sense that like for me the way I start is like for instance my collaborations with Mark, we always start and he's like, what kind of character do you want to play? And then I'm like, well, I'd love to play a character like this or like this. and we're like, okay, let's take it there. Like for our cult film, I was like, I've always wanted to play like either a cult leader or the son of a cult leader,
Hmm.
and so that was kind of the starting point for our cult film. And so then I'm kind of thinking in terms of the character, and Mark's looking at the big picture as a whole, where he's like he's looking at it as the director, and he's like he's looking at the story as a whole. He's like, what do you think you would do this here or this here? And I'm like, I think I would do this and maybe say this. And so it's almost like another extension of acting for me, where it's like I get to live with the character a little bit longer, which is nice. And then when I'm on set, it's like I've almost had this experience with the character already, and I'm like, oh, I've been in a way you get to like meditate on that for a bit
Hmm.
and like really marinate in that. And then when you come to set, and obviously you do prep, like after you finish the script, you do preparation as an actor in general, and you memorize your lines and you try to like find like how you want to speak and move and all these things. And but it's nice because it gives you that like little edge of being like, I've already lived with this character for a little bit. Like this movie that we're filming right now, we wrote it like 2.5 or so years ago, and I back then kind of knew how I wanted to do it, and so it's been kind of in my head for like 2.5 years, but I'm still, you get nervous about it and you're like, I hope I do good. But there's something about writing for me where like it helps me, I think it helps me act. And then when I'm on set, the script part almost goes out the window
Hmm.
unless like me and Mark are maybe having a discussion and he's like, okay, what do you think about this scene? Should we do this here or this here? And then I maybe put on like a little bit more of like a director hat, and I'm like, well, maybe we need this because we need this to reveal that the boy is blank, and what. And but yeah, it really kind of is an extension of the acting process for me, which is nice.
That is awesome. So, do you have a favorite scene that you wrote for the film, and how did it like differ from it being in like the final cut of the film? Like, how did that differ from when you wrote it to it being in the film?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh man, favorite scene I think would be like I think there's a few, but I really love like I love some of the stuff with like Hippo's video camera.
Hmm.
Um and I love like but I think my favorite scene to both act in the like acting wise and just like writing wise, my favorite scene I think was the scene where Hippo like approaches Buttercup and he's wearing the ski mask at towards the
Oh
end,
yeah.
because like we were stuck on that scene for a little bit about like, okay, how should he approach her here, and because it's like towards the end and it's like this big reveal and it's like things are getting more dangerous, and so when we found out like how he should say it, that was really rewarding, and it kind of clicked. And then acting wise, it was special to me because I was really thinking the whole film. I was like, this is a character that doesn't show any emotion. He doesn't smile. He does like he's very sociopathic. And in that one moment, like I tried to like really save it for that moment. It's the first moment like Hippo is almost like euphoric and smiling.
Hmm.
And so you can see that he's really cracked and he's like he is old Yeller at that point, and you have to like he has to be put down. And who knows what will happen? Spoiler alert there.
Yep.
But so that was a really fun scene to both write and film. And then there was other stuff as well. It was just a blast like writing all of it though. Um but I think that was my favorite scene ultimately.
That's awesome. And I know you kind of brought up Buttercup, and I thought Lila was awesome, and it was her first major role, which was like crazy to me. So what
Yeah,
what was it like to work with her, and did you learn anything about yourself as an actor and writer that you would take with you for future projects that she might have instilled in you?
totally. So she's like a wonderful, she's just so great. Like she's gonna be a star, and she already is. But she's like got so many layers to her, and she has like such a rich world where inside of her where she can just like say just the simplest dialogue, but it's ultimately like just so layered. Like she can make anything come out so poetic where you're like, it's almost like, okay, this is like a random anecdote. Like I've always thought I don't smoke cigarettes.
Hmm.
I've always thought smoking cigarettes looks so cool because like it makes everything seem so poetic where you're like you're puffing and you're like it's like Charles Bukowski, and like you can be saying the most mundane thing like I have to pick up my bike from the shop, but if it's like in between like puffs, you're like, whoa, he has to pick up his bike from the shop. But and so like Lila almost has that effect with everything she says without a cigarette, where she can make anything sound poetic. And it's like, and so it was just a real treat to work with her because ultimately at the beginning when we were writing it, we were thinking maybe Buttercup should be American, and it should just be his like biological sister. But Mark was at Berlin Film Festival with a film he produced called The Scary of 61st, and Lila was there with a film that she did called a Hungarian film called Forest I See You Everywhere, and she won the Silver Bear for it that year, and it was like, and so she was like I still need to see it, but apparently she was like it was like a she wasn't on screen that long, but her performance was just like so powerful. Mark was very moved by it.
That's
I
so
need to see
cool.
it. And he was like, I think we should try to work with her. Maybe she should be Buttercup.
Hmm.
And and I was like, yeah, I mean, she looks amazing. Like she like already you could just tell like she just has like such an intelligence about her. And so I was really excited. I was like, I hope she says yes. And then she was really into it. And then when we got like there was just something about her where like I just like I really appreciate like when on set with her, she just like approaches acting so differently. And I think maybe it's a European thing, but like I feel like maybe a lot of American actors put such a stress on like
Hmm.
I have to have this performance this way. I need to be like what my brain is thinking. I need it to be perfect in the way that I see whatever that perfection is. And it almost feels like she doesn't put that stress on it, or if she does, she doesn't show it, but like instead, and she doesn't care to like I don't know, she's just like has like a completely different process, and it really highlights for me something that I just love about acting in general, that like everyone has different processes where it's like where like obviously like someone like Daniel Day-Lewis wants to like live in it for like a month
Hmm.
beforehand or more or longer, or like maybe like you know Jimmy Stewart maybe just like maybe I'm entirely like maybe kind of just like goes in and wings it. No, I'm not saying he like gives that
Yeah.
up, but like you know what I mean. Like, and so she really highlighted like that it's not all one like cut and dry way. Like there's a different process for everything,
Hmm.
and I don't know, she just brought so many layers to everything, and so she's just someone that like I would watch her on screen like literally like just like plucking like grass out of the ground for like 2.5 hours. Like I would watch that, and so it was just a treat to work with her, and I can't wait to do it again whenever that is.
I know
But
I thought both of your performances were so good and like even for you guys like being like her being adopted, like it felt like a real relationship in a way. Like as fucked up as like the relationship
yeah,
was, I thought that like there was like a lot of chemistry there and it kind of just like exuded through the picture.
thank you. That's amazing. She really ended up feeling like a sibling to me, where it was like, um, and I may have mentioned this at the Brain Dead Q&A. I'm not sure, but I so because she's from Europe, she obviously like her phone wasn't connected to like American satellites or whatever
Hmm.
it is, and so she asked if she could use my hotspot, and at the time I'd never used set up a hotspot before, and so she set it up on my phone and she made the password Lila123, and it's been that ever since. And so like if
That's
anyone ever
awesome.
needs to use my hotspot, it's still that. And so she really is like just a sister to me. She just texted me yesterday. She's just like, and it's the shame of it is that we just live on the opposite sides of the globe.
Yeah,
But I look forward to meeting her or filming with her again at some point. And and she also is just like such a talented like director. She's I'm sure going to direct like several masterpieces in her time. But yeah, she's just a genius. She's just
that's
the
so
best.
awesome. But yeah, it would be cool to talk chat with her too. She like
Oh yeah,
she seemed like at the Q&A like everything she was saying I was like this is awesome. And it's so
she's so
cool.
good. Yeah, she can like and she just like yeah she's also just I don't know. I feel like, for instance, like I speak like a broken carnival ride, like a real jumbler of words, where I'm like I go on these long-winded sentences, and I'm like like I talk like that, and she can just say something in one sentence, and she's like, and it's just like wow, like how did you achieve such a sentence with like no time to think? I don't know. So maybe I just wish I was also European,
Yeah.
but it's just different vibes. But yeah,
So I have to ask this because it blew my mind when you guys did it in the movie. Did you actually drink milk with Mountain Dew, and how did it taste?
Thank you for asking because actually no one's really asked me this, and
Yes.
and 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 it is I did do it. So like,
Oh
um,
God.
so here's the crazy thing. Also, was the Mountain Dew. Not only was it real Mountain Dew, but it was from 1999. They bought it on
What?
eBay. So like it was like 20-year-old Mountain Dew,
Oh,
and, or maybe like 22-year-old Mountain Dew, and but it had never been opened, so it was like still like carbonated and everything. And we they our production designer ordered it on eBay, and they were like everyone was like, now do you really want to drink it? Like you don't have to drink the Mountain Dew milk. And I was like, no, it's okay. I want to drink it. Like Hippo would drink it. I want to drink the
hmm.
Mountain. And and so in that scene, like it was we got it in one take where it was like I just pour the Mountain Dew and then I fill up the whole cup and it's like half Mountain Dew, half milk, and I drank the whole thing and honestly it was not bad. Like I know this is crazy, but like it tasted kind of good in like a way where it was like it's like not a bad mix because like milk is creamy
Hmm.
and Mountain Dew is fruity and so it's like a creamy fruity drink and it's like bubbly and so I honestly kind of recommend it.
Okay. I
Well,
might have to try it.
yeah, we'll call it Mountain Milk.
Mountain milk.
And but it was actually really good. And what's funny is I don't know if this is good, but like I've seen on the internet people mix Pepsi and milk and they'll call it
Hmm.
pill. And I don't know where someone originated that, but like apparently some people really like pilk. And so, but I'm a big I wish I would, but like I'm telling you right now, Mountain Milk, that's the next thing.
Mountain milk sounds like the best thing ever, honestly.
It's amazing. It's like milk that you'd find at the top of Mount Everest. It's just like gives you a zap, and it's
It gives you a zap.
but I really want to like collaborate with Mountain Dew and make like a milky Mountain Dew, but that'll be further down the line. That'll be
Well,
after the
yeah.
top Funkos.
We'll send this to Mountain Dew. Listen, we talked
You need,
about it. You need mountain milk.
you need Mountain Milk. It's just add some milk to your Mountain Dew. Everyone's gonna buy it.
Oh God, I gotta try it now.
You need to try it. You need to
So,
try it.
last couple of questions I have for you is, obviously are in the new year. Do you have any resolutions that you'd like to work on this year that you kind of learned that you wanted to hone in on some of your projects from 2024? Something that you learned last year that you want to kind of take over and hone in on?
Oh, that's a really great question. Oh man, I mean, like, yeah, last year. So, I think like I think so stuff I filmed last year. There's a few things coming out this year that I'm excited about, and I feel like over time, one thing I learned was like kind of like simply like not kind of like what we were talking about earlier with Lilo, but like not putting too much stress on everything because I think like growing up, I've always been a bit of a perfectionist, and I don't know if it's like OCD or whatever, because I do have a great amount of OCD just in like
Hmm.
a mental illness way. And and that it's not like the cleanliness, but you're dealing with like intrusive thoughts and all these things. But like, but there's also like a perfectionism to it because a lot of OCD is like, oh, like this has to be perfect, and I
Hmm.
think sometimes I've let that like inflict on whether it's my acting or whether it's like you know just like making a movie or whatever. And I think sometimes that can be a superpower in a way where you're like you want to get something very good, but I think like sometimes it's just that less is more. And so it's like if you really want to achieve something, just like not putting so much stress on it and being like, I'm gonna do my preparation and whatever happens, happens, but I'm not gonna like beat myself up if I don't feel like okay, for instance, in a scene like I remember I filmed a scene like last year for a movie that's coming out later that like I just felt like oh man like I just like I was like I wasn't like not about being perfect but like I didn't feel authentic in that scene and I
Hmm.
was like so mad at myself and I remember being like I could have done better I could have done better but now it's filmed and it's like locked away and like that's it forever like that scene is done forever and there's some and because film is like eternal like it's like when you
Hmm.
once you filmed it like that's it like you can't go back and change it like maybe like an AI director could go
Hmm.
back and change an AI actor but like no one's ever going to care to see those
No.
but but like, but so there's, so I think like ultimately though, like another thing I learned that kind of goes along with it was like, if the director says they got it, then they got it. Where it's
Hmm.
like if the director's happy, then you don't need to keep beating yourself up over what you thought might have not been perfect, or like even though you're a perfectionist, it's like if the director's moving on, it likely means like, hey, we got it. And so even if you think, okay, for a moment that that was maybe inauthentic, because the camera captures everything, but like maybe but the frame might have been in a way where like it actually was authentic. So I don't know. I think it's just a long-winded way of saying like, like embrace the like embrace imperfection and don't put too much stress on it. Because ultimately the other thing about making movies is just like having fun. Because like I
Hmm.
like when I started making movies, it was or when I started like acting when I was like 10, not professionally, but like with my childhood best friend, we just would like take my mom and dad's video camera when they like weren't home, and we would like make these dumb home movies, and it was just so much fun. And we didn't know how to edit them. We just would watch them back on the camcorder and be like, wow. And it was like dumb like Sonic the Hedgehog movies, like where it
That's
was
so
like
cool.
we loved Sonic the Hedgehog growing up, and I remember I pre-ordered like Sonic Unleashed on the Wii or something, and it came with a Sonic hat, and so you could have like I had his hair and like ears, and like I remember I like played Sonic, and I was like and like that it was just so exciting to like make a movie, and it was just like because kids don't have like at least I don't maybe some kids, but like they don't have that like perfectionism thing where they're like
No.
you have to go back and get it. It's more about just doing it and having fun. And so I think that's another big part of it is like you can still like treat it like it's the end of the world, like it's life or death, but like you ultimately need to have fun with it as well because that's why you loved it in the first place. And so taking that stress away, I think, is a big thing for sure.
Definitely. Those are all great things, and I can't wait to see what you do with them. And do you have a favorite movie from last year besides
Oh,
Hippo?
that's a great question. Oh man. Okay, actually, I do. I do have a favorite movie. Um, so, um, so this is. I'm a huge Brady Corbet guy. He's the director of The Brutalist.
Yep.
I still need to see Nosferatu. I'm behind on that, and I love Robert Eggers. Um, but um, but so Brady Corbet, director of The Brutalist. Vox Lux is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Hmm.
I'll like die on that hill because like some people like didn't mesh with it. I thought it was amazing. I saw it in theaters 4 times in just like empty Harkins theaters in Chino Hills.
Oh,
I was
wow.
I like went and saw it 4 times, and I took like my brother to see it, and then I took my brother and his girlfriend to see it, and like I was trying to like create like a cult of like we have to go see Vox
Hmm.
Lux to go see it. And so when I saw The Brutalist this year, I was like, this is it really is like I'm a sucker for like an American epic where it's like there will be blood or stuff like that. Um, and this just like really captures the American epic to me, and the fact that he did it on like a $9.6 million budget in like 33 days, but it has this scope of like being a gigantic movie.
Yep.
And like an intermission and everything. I just that for me like reinvigorates like my passion for movie making, where I'm like that's the human condition on screen right there. And so that movie like fills me with so much electricity. It deserves every Oscar under the sun. And I just love Brady Corbet so much. And by the way, from Arizona. Brady's from
Yep.
Arizona. We got some Arizona heads in here.
We
Um,
do.
but so that one's I think my favorite movie of the year. I loved Anora. I loved The Substance. The Substance is
Yeah.
amazing. And oh man, so many things though. I'm spacing on so many
It was a
things.
great year for film. Brutalist was really good. I loved Wild Robot. I don't know if you got a chance to see that one, but it was beautiful.
Oh wait, I need to see that. Let me add that to my list really quick. Oh, and how can I forget also Last Stop in Yuma County?
Oh
That's
yeah.
another
Shout out
favorite.
Francis.
Shout out Francis. And I think like that's my list. I think all like like Last Stop in Yuma County. Also, like if you want like a Tarantino Coen Brothers esque like masterpiece, like that's a directorial debut feature for the ages right there, where it's like, and also just Francis is the greatest person in the
He
world.
is.
So so that like, but yeah, it just was such a good year for movies where it's like, and there's so many more that I'm spacing on now as well, where I'm like, I'm gonna exit this interview and I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna remember 5 movies and I'm like, you're kidding me, and then I'm gonna like, and then I'm gonna like text you. I'm like searching my like letterbox right now. I'm like, what else did I see? But sometimes I like forget to log things as well. I'm like, what else did I see? I just watched a lot. I watched a lot of David Lynch this year, as always. But Conclave was really good. I mean, there's so many good things this year.
There really
Um,
was.
but
So I have a quick question for you then, actually, before ask my last question. But this one, would you ever want to direct?
that's a great question. I was actually just talking about this on set yesterday. Um, I would actually. It's funny because a while ago, a few years ago, I thought like, no, I don't think so. I was like, I'm just an actor. Like I just want to act. And even writing for me, I was like hesitant to at first because I was like, I just want to act. But like, there's something like I definitely think down the line I want to direct a few like really crazy bonkers things that should and it's like almost like right now I'm like learning and this is like a page maybe I've taken out not only Brady Corbet but other actors books where like something I appreciate about Brady Corbet is he also acted in so many great movies with so many great filmmakers before really jumping to direct and he learned so much I feel like from those directors. And I think like Elia Kazan maybe said, I think it was Elia Kazan said something about like the best thing a director could do for themselves is to like learn to act. And so I think like it's, I think eventually I definitely will, but it's a matter of, but it's nice to like, acting is my first love
Hmm.
always. That's what I'll always do. But it's nice that I get to learn on these sets, like for eventually when I do jump into it, okay, like how am I going to do it? And so I am slowly accumulating information, like much like ChatGPT, where I'm like learning, and then eventually I will.
That'd be cool.
But yeah,
It's down the line. Keep up the acting, keep up the writing. And
yeah.
last question, is there anything you want people to know about this movie going into it with the re-release?
Oh man. Just know that if you like, um, I saw a review that I really liked a few months ago, where it mentioned like this is like a spiky haired movie for weird spiky haired teens that it mentioned that we haven't seen a lot of since like Donnie Darko or like the Greg Araki days and things. And so like if you like those weird movies about like weird kids like Harold and Maude or Donnie Darko and that world and you think we need more of them, then jump into Hippo. And I think you're going to get a real kick out of it. And you're going to see something that you have hopefully not seen, maybe ever. And you're going to look at Super Soakers differently and you're going to look at Mountain Dew Milk differently.
Yep, get your Mountain Milk, people, and I
Get your
will
Mountain Milk
have
ready.
I will have all of the theaters it's going to be listed at in the description below, so you know where to go find it, and we'll make sure people go see this fucking movie because it rocks.
Thank you so much. Man, you're the best. Thank you so much, Seth. And this was just so much fun also just like talking. And I'm excited when you move to LA, we're going to do some hangs.
Please,
And Los Angeles, get ready for Seth.
I can't wait, man. I'm ready. Thank you for all the time today, man.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.